Well, joining me on Rockposer.com on this particular occasion is a gentleman from a fantastic band by the name of DeWolff, and that is none other than Pablo van der Poel, singer and guitarist of the band. Welcome to Rockposer.com.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to hold my hand up from the very start here. I was not familiar with your band until I was sent over this album and frantically thought, why not? And promptly rushed to get your back catalogue because, wow, you guys absolutely hit it on the nail when it comes to my taste in music.
Wow, thanks. Cool.
Well, there just seems to be this, I guess the last probably 2 or 3 years, this sort of general consensus that bands want to go back to this particular sound. There's quite a few bands around now who are going with this sort of 70s vibe with a bit of blues thrown in, etc. What makes you think, why is it now so popular? Is it a nostalgia thing for old people like me, or is it just because it's great music?
I think it's because, when you turn on the radio and it's you hear the same stuff, no matter what radio station you listen to, it all sounds the same. It's like this prefabricated thing that seems to be the only thing that they play on the radio. It's like this recipe for intro, build up, first verse, then a chorus, and then the verse again and a chorus, and it has to be simple and it has to be this and that and that. And I think young people making music with real instruments again and with real humans again is a reaction to that.
It's what I would call music by numbers. It's going through the process probably without really feeling the music, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's I don't know who started it, but it's been going on for quite some years now that there came into existence this formula of making music, and it's super boring, and it's very simple. I mean, it's too simple in my opinion. If you listen to a random song on the radio and you just try to play it on an acoustic guitar or whatever, there's nothing there. It's just like it's 2 chords probably, and it's just nothing to me.
One thing I was very intrigued about when I read the press release that was sent over for this new album, Thrust, we must of course give it its name, was the fact that you have got an analog recording studio, which instantly sort of pricked up my ears, and I thought, wow, someone's actually doing everything back in analog again. Is that because you prefer the sound of it? Because obviously there's as we all know, there's more of a warmth to it, more of a feeling, or was there any particular other reason why you went down that route?
Well, it started out as just this romantic thing that we, the first time we went into a recording studio, which was, I think 10 years ago, there was a tape recorder there, so we were all like grabbed by the magic of this thing, and we just wanted to record on this tape recorder because all of our heroes used to record on tape. And then later, about 5 years ago, I think, I bought my own tape recorder because I just wanted to. No, it was longer. It was like 6 years ago. I bought my first own tape recorder because I just wanted to experiment with it, and then I realized that this was the perfect way for me to record things the way I wanted them to sound and the way I wanted to record music with real people and real instruments. And I don't like the distraction of a screen when I'm recording. And then I just started working with it a lot, and it grew into this natural thing where it grew into a situation that when I record something on my computer, it just doesn't sound right to my ears, and I just want the tape recorder to I just want to use the tape recorder because I think for the way I work, that works and sounds best.
I guess it really sort of goes hand in hand with the sound that DeWolff have strived for, this 70s vibe sound. I mean, it is really, it gives you the whole package, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it's you don't have to, because we don't really overthink what we're doing, and we've never sat together and said, okay, let's make like 60s, 70s style music. We just started playing, and that's what happened. And when we record to tape, the sound, of course, there's more behind it than just, putting a microphone in front of the drums and running it through tape. That's it. But what we hear back from tape it gives us inspiration. We hear it and we're like, ooh, nice, this sounds good, and it just feels really good. And if we record, for example, if we would record digital, I'd have to take a lot of steps with plugins and stuff like that to make it sound the way I want it to sound, and it just doesn't make sense to me to do that. But for other people, everybody has their own way of doing it. So I think you can get kind of a tape sound recording digital. There's people who can do that, but to me, that would be like how do you say it? That's not the shortest way to achieve what you want.
Indeed, because as you say, you're going to probably go through 20 plugins to get that sound, and maybe get the vowel sound and all the other things that you're going to add in, when you might just go, as you said, the simple route and just go analog from the start.
Yeah, and you have to think about it a lot if you want to do it that way you just described. Recording in a computer and make it sound like tape. You really have to think about you have to think about all these steps you have to take to make it sound good, or what sounds good to my ears.
Well, let's go back to the album Thrust. Of course, you've, shall we say, released several albums already in the last 10 years. You've already released 5 albums, so you've been pretty prolific in obviously producing material. When it comes to the content of this album, obviously you've not held back in tackling certain subjects, whether it be politics, etc. Was this something that you set out to deliberately do, or did you just feel that it came naturally to talk about what's going on in the world at the moment?
Well, mostly that, yeah. We were writing songs about... I always try to write a song about something that I have a strong connection with, or a strong feeling that I have, and I try to put that in a song. And sometimes it just starts with a story where we're playing the song and we just make up this first line, and it seems to make no sense, but then the story develops and it gives me a strong feeling about a song. And for example, one morning Donald Trump had just been voted president, overnight here, European time, and we got to the studio, we got together, and the only thing we could talk about was Donald Trump and his presidency. And we started writing this song, and of course it was gonna be about Donald Trump, because that was the only thing that was occupying our minds that day. So it wasn't even that we sat together and discussed okay, we should make a political statement. It was just basically the same as you would write a love song about a love you just lost or something, and you have a very, very strong emotion, and you try to put that in a song. We had a very strong emotion about Donald Trump and his presidency, and so we wrote a song.
I think everybody has.
Yeah, right. So it wasn't, to us it wasn't even political. I mean, the lyrics are political now, but have this political message. But it started out as an emotion, really.
Yeah. See, almost a common sense reaction to what had happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and to write about something else that day, that would just seem weird to us. So, if people say that, a lot of people commented on this song we released, the song I was just talking about, and they said that musicians shouldn't sing about politics or whatever. That doesn't make sense to me, because musicians, artists sing about, what they want to sing about. But, they sing about what goes on in their heads and their hearts.
Of course.
And that might be a political thing.
When it comes to the writing process, do you all share the writing, or does one of you do the lyrics and the other the music? You know, is this a collaboration, or do you sort of go away and sit in a dark corner somewhere and come up with an idea and then sort of all join up and see what you've got?
For this album, the way it worked is we just got together and picked up our instruments, and one of us would start playing something, and the other ones would join in, and we would just jam until we would have something good, and we would stop it, and we'd be like, okay, that's good. What are you playing? And then we figured that out, and then we'd try to instantly add vocals to that, you know, in that moment, just singing along with what we just made up. And then you know, after, I don't know, like 2 hours, we had a song, and then we recorded that, and we probably change that the day after, and maybe even change it again the next week and the next week again, until we had something that we were completely satisfied with. And then somewhere in between, we just played this thing we had just recorded that was instrumental, and then we'd sing these vocal lines, melodies we just made up, and then try to write lyrics to those vocal melodies. And for this album, that also happened with the three of us together. So I was, most of the time, I had this piece of paper and a pen, and I was coming up with like the main idea for the song. Okay. And I'd shout over to Luca and say, hey, what's the synonym for whatever? And then he'd look it up on thesaurus.com, and I would ask Robin, you know, if you want to say this, how would you describe that? Or what's the word for blah, blah, blah? And you know, sometimes I would be stuck, and then Luca would, you know, he would look over on the lyrics, and he'd say like, maybe this. And then we'd improve each other's ideas. And that was really special, because this was the first time it happened like that. In the past, mostly we'd have this instrumental demo, and we would have no idea for vocal melodies or whatsoever. Okay. And I took it home, and I'd write something at home, and I was always kind of like ashamed of the lyrics, or I mean, I didn't really share them with Robin and Lucas. So for the older albums, sometimes they don't even really know what the lyrics are exactly, and for this album, it was really together and open. That was really cool.
I would say that Thrust as an album is a proper full-length album, because there's 11 tracks on it, rather than, let's face it, a lot of albums. I mean, you're lucky if you get 8 tracks on a lot of albums now. Did you deliberately set out to do that number of tracks, or did you actually have trouble squeezing it down to 11 tracks?
No, it's really funny. Every time we make an album, really early on in the writing process of a song, we know if the song is going to be good enough or not. Okay. And if it's not good enough, we just leave it, or maybe we would take like the best part out of that song and maybe use it for later. And we always end up with 11 or 12 songs. And our first album was 11 songs, because it just happened that way. We had 11 songs, so we recorded them all. Sure. The second album, I don't know exactly, but we probably had like 12 songs, and one of them wasn't good enough in our opinion, so we didn't include that on the album. And then we got this idea of, you know, an album, the DeWolff album should always be 11 songs. And you know, somehow every album we write, we end up with 11 songs. Or maybe 12, but then there's always very clear that one of these 12 songs is not as good as the other 11. So we just drop it, and we're like, oh, well, let's make it a thing, you know, just always do 11 songs. But if we'd only come up with 8 good songs, and maybe, you know, they're very long songs, and there are 8 of them, we'd also, you know, release that. But it's just a magical thing that we always end up with 11 tracks.
That's good, because I know certainly some bands I know or speak to agonise for hours over of which tracks to fit on an album, you know, and it can almost come to almost fisticuffs with all the members going about which particular track are they going to put on or not. Obviously, it just seems to be a very natural progression for you guys then, and as you said, also with the recording process for this album. So I guess after 10 years, you guys are pretty comfortable with yourselves.
Yeah. And comfortable with each other, because we never have these I see other bands also around us. I you know, I they have these struggles that seem very strange to me,
Right.
like this.
Yeah.
Whose song is going to be on the album? We never have those kinds of things because we're always it's like three brothers. It feels super natural, and it's always very obvious to us. Like if someone says, this song we just wrote yesterday, I don't like it, and the other two will be like, no, me neither. And we always seem to have like the same state of mindset.
One thing that I've brought up in other interviews with people is the music scene in general. Now, certainly in the UK, the music scene is pretty healthy. And I know, well, certainly in Scandinavia and Northern Europe, it's pretty healthy as well, where the American market seems, shall we say, a bit ropey. How you find the music scene in Holland at the moment?
Well, very good, actually. When we started out 11 years ago, there weren't any cool rock bands in Holland. There was one, now I think of it, and they didn't have any success really. They just played in little venues, and so we started with DeWolff, and things went pretty well very early on, and now if I look around now in Holland, there's a lot of really cool bands, a lot of friends of ours that play in really cool bands, and it's a very cool scene now in Holland. There's this scene of bands that draw a lot of inspiration from music from the 60s and 70s, and also some new stuff, and turn it into something that's, I think, pretty unique, like this mixture of soul, rock and roll, and blues music from Holland.
I guess, it's easy to get pigeonholed into types of music, and again, it's something which regular listeners to my interviews will probably get bored sick of me saying. For me, there's only two types of music. There's good music and there's bad music, and it's as simple as that for me. It's music I like and music I don't. I don't particularly go after a band because they are blues or they're rock or what have you. It's if I like it, and that's the end of it. Your own particular influences, are they mainly sort of rock and blues, or are you bringing influences in from other things, maybe soul, jazz, or pop, or what have you?
Yeah, I mean, my brother Luca, the drummer, he listens to a lot of Afrobeat, for example, a lot of Afrobeat music from the 70s. Which is a mixture of African music and James Brown, I guess, and even psychedelic rock. And I listen a lot to if I play records at home, it's mostly American roots music, stuff like Townsend Band or Leon Russell, and but I have a very open mind, but I have a very, if I hear a song, I know probably in 20 seconds if I like it or not.
Yeah.
And sometimes this is old music, and sometimes it's new stuff. And for this record, I really let those influences just come to me. Whereas in the past, 5 years ago, I would be like, it's from the 80s. No, I don't like it.
Okay.
And now it was really like, I like anything if it's a good song. And so it happened that I hear a song on the radio, like this song I'd known for a long while but never really listened to that closely, like "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal, and I would be like, this is actually a really good song. And for the first time, I wasn't ashamed or anything to say it and to think this, and I think that really helped. It really helped us get to also the key of what a good song is.
I think that's another thing certainly with the UK and Europe, is that we're probably a lot more open-minded when it comes to music. We're not just sort of I only listen to rock music from such and such a period and that's it, and almost blank off from everything else.
Yeah, that might be true. Yeah, because when I think of the United States, for example, they have I think they have more this thing that everything has its own genre, and people listen to a band because they're a southern rock band from Texas or whatever, and I'd listen to their music and I'd be like, what? This has, this, it just has this label on it, and that's why all these people that like Lynyrd Skynyrd listen to it, because it reminds them of something.
The whole genre business has gone absolutely mad. I mean, some of the stuff that I get through on promo, and I see what the name of the genre is, I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
When you've got like melodic death metal and things like that, you think, sorry?
It's so weird. I mean, yeah, melodic death metal, or I also sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, what the fuck? Melodic death metal. I mean, isn't all music supposed to be melodic? And if it's not melodic, I mean, that's maybe like an exception. You could call it like experimental, whatever. But I also think that's a very bad thing that's happened, because back in the day you just have pop music and classical music and jazz music, and pop music was just all the music, all the music for young people.
Pop is popular music. That's what it stands for. It's short for popular music. End of.
And people would just watch other bands and be inspired by that, and everybody seemed to be inspired by everybody. I mean, not that everything was good, but there were no boundaries. And nowadays there are a lot of boundaries. I mean, if you're in a black metal band, it's very clear that you make black metal and black metal only. You do something else, it's this whole thing. Oh, our new album is more indie, blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, just make the fucking music. Maybe listeners can put a label on it if that's handy for them, but for a band to put themselves in this that's very weird to me.
It's a restriction, isn't it? I think probably the easiest way to put it.
It's kind of hard because for our the team around us, like the record label, and our manager sometimes asks us like, okay, but what should I say that the genre you make is? And we're like, I don't know. I mean, I really wouldn't know, because I don't know, it's a lot of things.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
I listen to all the music that I like is a lot of things. It's rarely very clearly one genre of music.
Well, before I let you go, one thing I'm going to bring up, obviously, again, reading the PR bump that comes through with it when you release or whatever, the stuff that you guys have done live is pretty impressive, to say the least. I'm guessing playing on stage obviously is obviously a big part of being a band, but you guys seem to just sort of take it to another level. Looking at some of the gigs that you've done. You
mean like how big the gigs were, or?
Picture how big. I'm reading stuff like playing for Russian millionaires' birthday parties and things like this. This is not normal.
I mean, we've been playing for almost 11 years and full time. So we've been to some really weird and special places, and that's really cool. I mean, that you get a lot of experience from that, and also a lot of inspiration from those kinds of things.
Well, it just makes the whole thing a lot more fun, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last year we had like a biography worth of things that happened just in one day when we played on a biker festival in Russia. It was like 4 hours from Moscow, and it was just crazy. There were strippers, there were pyrotechnics that were just falling from the stage into the audience. There were naked people in the audience, and there were people running on stage, and it was just a madhouse. And those kinds of things, those are the kind of things that you'll never forget.
Well, I had a friend of mine who's a blues guitarist, played a biker fest in Russia. Yeah, and I heard some of the stories. He's just like, wow.
Oh, it was crazy. And, sometimes, I've been doing this since I've been playing in a band and playing a lot since I was 12. So a lot of stuff, I forget about it. and then one day it might pop up in my brain again, and I'd tell like a friend, I just remembered that, like, I don't know, 15 years ago I was playing this stage, and this happened, and it's like something super bizarre, and it just also becomes like a normal thing almost.
Well, Pablo, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I say, absolutely love the album. Fantastic stuff indeed, right up my street. Wish you all the success with the album. It would be great if you guys would come over to the UK at some point, because I think you guys would go down an absolute storm here.
Yeah, I mean, it's also really weird because I think, I'm really proud of the album, but you have to see us live. That's really what when DeWolff comes to like full fruition. But we're playing in London in May to release the album. I think the 12th of May, if I'm not mistaken.
I will check out the details, and fingers crossed I can get up there and see you guys play, because that'd be great.
Awesome.
Pablo, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you very much.